So, welcome everyone. So I hope you're all enjoying NDC so far. So thank you for being here this early. Olena is actually a bit emotional that's so early, so...
Oh, come on.
So, Olena, what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, about impactful mentorships and ship. And that mornings should be forbidden and restricted for the sessions. Yeah, okay. I will stop complaining about it. So yeah, we're going to talk about impactful mentorship, two sides of a story. And I guess that I will start from a little introduction about actually ourselves. So my name is Olena Borzenko. I second day working in a company called Spirit. And you can find me on Twitter. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out, just drop a message. I'm originally from Ukraine, but I live now in Germany. And with Eldert, we met just online, virtually. So, Eldert, a couple of words about you.
Yeah, so I'm Eldert Grootenboer. I come from the Netherlands, where I work at a company called Motion 10. So at Motion 10, we focus on everything Microsoft, everything Azure. Myself, I focus mostly on Azure and integration. I'm also Azure MVP, so I love working with the community. I write books, I build a blog. I'm of course speaking, I do some write some articles. Basically anything I can do with the community, I love to do. So I'm really happy that I can share our knowledge here. And if you have any questions, any remarks, you can always contact us on Twitter. So just reach out to us there.
Amazing. So what was the starting point basically for us, how we end up in the mentoring program? It was a year ago actually, right? Yeah. Just 1 year ago we met online. It was Christmas time. It was online party organized by Dylan Beatty. Just random, absolutely out of nowhere. I saw a Facebook invitation for the party. Just some music, drinks online, and meet some new people, some new friends. And that was exactly the place where we met with Eldert. I had no idea who he is. We just talked the whole night through, and we basically became friends right away. And back then, Eldert was quite busy, doing 3 talks per week, sometimes more, sometimes less, but never less than two. And I was curious, like how it is to be a part of community, how it is to be a speaker. And I was asking a couple of questions, quite a lot of questions actually. Eldert, how do you survive? How do you wake up in the morning? What makes you move forward? And that was basically also for me a starting point of, and I understood that I'm curious about it. I understood that it's something maybe I would like to do in the future, or it was bringing you awoke an interest in me, yes. Right? So that was a time when I first asked him to share with me a bit of insights, like. Tell me, how do we prepare? How do we start? How do you search for some ideas? And that was the beginning when Eldert also understood that might be a potential future speaker. Maybe we can work together. Maybe we can do something about it. And that's basically how we.
So then we started talking, okay, so you said like, okay, I want to be a bit more involved in the community. And we started talking about, okay, how do you get involved in the community? Because the community is quite big. There's a lot of different things that you can do. So we started talking a bit, okay, what do you want to do? And like there are maybe people here in the room that are with the same question, like I would like to get more involved, but what can I actually do here? So there's a couple of different options. So of course there's speaking, and like Olena said, I did a lot of speaking back then. I did 100 sessions in 1 year, so basically every week I was speaking at least twice. So that was one of the options that we talked about, like okay, you can become a speaker, you can get on stage like we are doing here. Of course back then it was all still virtual, so the stage was actually your living room where you were just sitting behind your computer. But there's some other options as well. So of course you can go blogging, like you might have some ideas that you got from work. You might have run into an interesting case, or you might see some new technology that you want to talk about. So you can start blogging about that. You can start writing, so either articles or books. And there's actually, like David Whitney here, who actually written 2 books. So that's also an option that you can do. Like there's a lot of people who actually enjoy this a lot. So that's another option. Or maybe you want to do some video recordings. And especially during the pandemic, of course, this became very big because everyone was sitting at home anyways. So we saw an uprise in videos where people were talking about, okay, this is what I did, or this is how this works. So there's a lot of those things as well. Or of course, you can just do code contributions. There's a lot of open source projects, or maybe you have your own projects, or your own code samples that you want to share. So there's a lot of different options out there that you can actually do to become more involved with the community. And all of these options are basically good options for anyone that wants to get started.
Yeah, that was my reaction, basically. It all seemed to be much easier for me when I was just observing how Eldert is doing this. Like, it was super easy, like out of nowhere there is a talk, out of nowhere there is a blog post. And then I realized that this is the whole science around it, that, like this is the whole ecosystem. And you need to invest a lot of basically time, you need to invest a lot of energy into it. But yeah, I was confused, but I was not giving up. So I decided that it's still worth to try. And my confusion came together with tons of questions, like basically what can I talk about, how to create the session, like where to start, and so on, so on, so on. When to get these ideas, it was this starts to do something. It's always the hardest part in whatever you are doing, and Eldert was helping me to keep being calm, right?
Yeah, so basically we started talking about, okay, you want to become a speaker, and so what does this entail? And we then started speaking, okay, you have a lot of different questions, and of course we went through them, like, okay, share your own story, just start with something small, like you don't have to be like that big person that's on stage doing keynotes right away. Just start with your own experience, start with something small and build from that. And of course, this was back when we were all sitting at home anyway, so just made it a little bit easier to get started, I think, because there was a lot of online events, and I think everyone here knows, like, you could literally just go to 3 different events on one evening if you wanted to. So there was a lot of events out there, so meetups, conferences, so a lot of different things. So as a new speaker, it was a bit easier because you did not already have to know, like, okay, I need to know the NDC people or something like that. You could just actually get started, like, hey, I want to speak. Let's just sign up for a CFP, for a meetup or something like that, and get started. And like Olena said, she had like 1,000 questions. A lot of them were answered. I won't say everything, but over time we got more and more answered there.
I think that we were repeating a couple of times, a couple of circles, yeah. So you were answering all my questions, but you saw how confused I was, but you also saw that I'm not giving up because I'm still kind of want to try, want to organize myself, want to share my knowledge. But the main point was not because that I wanted to speak. Main point was that I was really curious, like how to share the knowledge, to receive a feedback, to talk to people, meet new people. It was a whole new world and whole new experience. And at some point, you kind of got an idea, official idea.
Yes. So basically at that point it was like, okay, so I see that you really want to do this, you are driven, you are ambitious, so how about I start mentoring you? So of course we were already friends and we were all talking about things, but let's make it a bit more official. Like we actually will sit down, we make a plan, and we actually start like, I will start mentoring you and help you on your way there. I will give you the tips, I will introduce you to the right people. And in the end was, okay, just why not? Why should you not start speaking? Let's just do it.
Yeah, things got serious, and that was the moment when I realized if I'm saying yes now, I cannot step back. I cannot just decide like, oh, no, I'm changed my mind. So, but yeah, after all, why not? Why not to try it? Yes, of course, it's scary. You don't know what to expect. You don't know where to go, what's going to happen. Would you like it or not? And but why not? Well, the biggest fear was for me that I would just regret that I haven't tried. So yeah, I decided to try, and when Eldert proposed, let me be your mentor, I will help you, I said yes, let's do this, let's go forward. So he told me first of all that I have to start from understanding what do I like, what attracts me in talks when I'm watching some sessions, what do I want to achieve in the end. And I was looking for inspiration. So I was looking basically so in a format to understand how I want to present it on the stage at some point. Of course, not in 1 year, not in 5, maybe not even in 10 years, but at some point, the goal you kind of that I would go for. And the session, which called The Art of Core, I'm a very popular session. Like I think there's millions of views on YouTube by Dylan Beatty, was a great example for me. So I watched the session and I was inspired. And this time I was looking at this, I was watching the session not by just regular session, just as attendee. I was watching it to understand why do I like it, why do I really feel so interested in this, and I was trying to understand what's the format would be comfortable for me. Is it would be just a tech session where I will just have a lot of core and a lot of demo? Maybe I would share a story. Maybe this would be my experience. Maybe I will try to make a funny session and dance around and fall from the stage at some point. So I was trying to understand where is my format. And I cannot say that I understood it just by watching some different sessions, but at least I got an idea what the direction of what I want to move to.
So then we are going to set up the content, because she has now decided, okay, I'm actually going to be a speaker. I now have a little bit of idea, like, okay, what do I want to talk about, and stuff like that. So then you start setting up your content. And this is really important, because this is actually a first step, like, okay, I'm going to speak, but what am I going to speak about? So first of all, you need to pick a topic. And a topic should really be something that is close to you, especially when you just start speaking. It should be something that's very close to your heart. So you really must be passionate about it, because if you're going to speak, and especially as a first-time speaker, if it's not something that it's something that you're not passionate about, when you get on stage, like, you will just do your story, but it won't have that vibe that you really want to see on stage. And of course, like, if you have done 100 different talks, at some point you can be like, okay, there's this new service, I will just make a talk around this. But especially when you just get started, it's really important to get something that's really close to you and really be passionate about that. And that is also what I told Olena, like, okay, what are you passionate about?
Yeah, and that's also was the point I understood when I was watching Dylan's talk. The talk was interested, like, I really don't remember sometimes what he's talking about, or some other sessions, but the energy people sending from the stage, the energy, not even from the stage, even through the camera, you still, like, you feel interested. You don't really understand what they're talking about, but it's just interesting to listen. And that was also for me the same. Like, I wanted to be passionate about the topic, because I wanted to make people also interested and passionate about what I'm talking about, even if they don't understand, because it might be too technical or not that interesting. But anyway, and I was having troubles to basically. Because of insecurities, because I was not sure, because I never done anything like this before. I had a bit of troubles to understand what about my session, like how to pull it all together. And thanks for support for my friend David Whitney, which is now on the phone. But yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't. That's the words you said to me once, that it doesn't have to be groundbreaking or difficult or important, more things are not. And thanks a lot for these words, because I also understood that I don't have to go crazy with trying to, I don't know, make some discoveries in the world or invent a bicycle. I just need to talk what I like, to share the story and just enjoy it. And yeah, that was for me the changing point. And basically, okay, I got it. Now I can sit down and actually start writing, understanding and realizing that the first thing I have to have fun, and I have to enjoy it.
Yes. And so, of course, and this is important for everyone that wants to be a speaker, or everyone that is already speaking. Like, it's very easy to just say, I'm just going to put some slides together. I will just get some Microsoft deck. I will make my own story around it. But it's very important that you actually talk about your experiences, because everyone can basically just...
That was not me.
There we go. Sorry. Because everyone can just go on Google and look up the technical stuff. Like, so Olena actually started with Cosmos DB, for example. Like, everyone can go to the Microsoft Docs site, read about Cosmos DB. But really, what's more important is like, okay, what did I experience? I ran into this, and this is why you should do this, or this is why you shouldn't do this. And that's really the important part. Speak about your own experiences. So let them know, like, okay, this is what I ran into. This is how I got started. This is what I found difficult. This is what I found very interesting. Because those are the stories that people are coming to, like these conferences, to hear that. No one is here to just hear someone on stage talking about this is the docs and this is what's in the docs. And I've definitely seen some of those sessions. And it's just a shame because you are not bringing your passion on stage. You are just like just reading the text that you found somewhere. So really talk about your own experiences, about your own passions.
Yeah, and once I knew what I want to talk about, like, okay, you said that I started from Cosmos, but if you remember, I started from Cosmos and I failed. And I wanted to share with everyone how I started in the wrong way to work with a specific technology. And that was basically, I had an idea how to do this. I had already an idea what about going to be this talk, but then there was a hardest part, like how to write an actual abstract and how to choose a title. For me, it was another struggle when I was sitting and couldn't put my thoughts on the paper. And Eldert, you were giving me quite a lot of advice as well. Yeah.
I hope so, at least. No, but indeed, at that point, you're like, okay, I now kind of know what I want to talk about. So it was constantly like you had, like you said, you had been implemented at your where you're working at that point. You ran into some issues. You made some mistakes. You fixed some mistakes. So you were like, okay, this is what I want to talk about. But how do I actually make this in a format that this actually gets selected at somewhere? So then you start writing your abstract. And writing abstract is really about making sure that anyone that looks at that agenda, whether it's like the conference organizers when they're looking at your CFP submission, or like here at the venue, like someone is going to the agenda, why should you go here? So you start with making sure that you give some details about your session. So your abstract should really be like a small teaser, I would say, of your session. So what is in your abstract should also be in your session. That's very important. But it should not be like an essay about, okay, here's my session, basically written down. And I'm an organizer of conference myself. Like I've seen like where people submit a session with like one line, where you're still like, well, I have no clue what you're going to talk about. But I've also seen like those essays, like basically they just wrote out their entire session, like 3 pages long, and that's also not the right way to go. So when you create an abstract, really make sure that you like put in there the important details, just enough so that people are actually interested, like, hey, this is a session I would like to watch. But not as many details that they are like, okay, I already basically know everything that they're going to say. So it really should be attractive, but both for the conference organizers or the organizers of the meetup or whatever, because they of course have to select a session, so they need to see, okay, what track will this fit into? Is this like a lightning session or a full session? What are they going to talk about? Like, is this something like more that we are doing now, more about soft skills, or like the session we're doing later today, more about actual tech implementations? So for organizers, it's very important because they have to like, I think like here's like 100 slots or something like that. They get probably 1,000 submissions. So you have to make sure that your session is like interesting enough for them to actually say, okay, this is something I want in those 100 slots. But also for the attendees, of course, because like you are all here because you saw the session on the agenda and you were like, hey, this looks like an interesting session. I might learn something here. So make sure when you write that abstract that you really watch for those things. And that's also what Olena and me were going through, like that process of, okay, let's write something down, let's tweak it, let's introduce something in here that tells a bit more about, okay, what are you going to talk about? And it's like a process that you go through. And so if you want to start writing your own abstracts, or if you want to write some better abstracts maybe, definitely have a look at these 2 blog posts. So one is also from Dylan Beatty. So it's about how not to respond to CFP. And he talks about, because Dylan of course also has been in a lot of these committees where he's seen a lot of abstracts. And he talks about, okay, what should you put in an abstract and what should you definitely not put in there. So some of the things I talked about today, but there's some more things there as well. So definitely a very interesting read. And another one, from 1,000 submissions to 100 slots, the story of the 10%. This is by Martin Trades, another friend of ours. And he actually talks about, okay, so as an conference organizer, you get so many submissions, and Melon knows this now as well because she has to go to this as well. But you can probably only select about 10% will actually make it into the conference because you only have a limited amount of slots. So you actually have to start looking, okay, which sessions are interesting enough? And Martin talks about, okay, as an organizer, how does he go through? And he talks about, okay, so all those submissions that are like either one line or a complete essay, those go out right away. That's very easy. So then there's stuff like, okay, this is a very interesting session, but has nothing to do what we want to do at this conference. Like we are a developer conference, this is like something completely different. Okay, so that is going to go out as well. So then you bring it down to about 50%, and then starts the hard process of actually, okay, going through all the sessions, which sessions are we going to select, like what are the tracks that we want, how many of certain subjects do we want. Then you bring it down to about 20%, and then it's like, okay, I want to have these 20%. These are all amazing sessions. These are friends that I want to have over. These are very interesting speakers. And I still have to call them down by still the half. So he talks about that process. So also a very interesting read there.
Yeah, and actually this article from Martin, it was exactly what he sent me before I submitted to this conference, my talks. So he told me, hey, I have a article, just have a look before you submit, so and make your choice carefully when you do this. And I mean, I'm here, right? So it really worked out, yeah. So yeah, so writing an abstract kind of, for me, turned out to be like a bit of math behind it. I mean, I'm an applied physicist, I'm a technical person, my whole family is engineers, so I have to find the math, otherwise I would not survive in this world. So that was the math I found for myself, and basically the structure. It doesn't have to be the same for every abstract. It doesn't mean there is the only way. It's just something what helped me to put my thoughts on the paper. So first of all, I'm trying to identify the problem. And if you have a problem with the cat, he's always going on the table and we have to teach him somehow not to do this. That's our problem. And so how we can solve it? Of course, so in this session, I want to show some different ways, 5 different ways, how to avoid the problem with the cat. And the additional details, like for example, technical details, what kind of tools we're going to use for this, what kind of technologies. So in my case, I decided that simple Scotch tape will help me to solve all my problems with with my cat. And that's basically the structure. So what kind of problem, how can I solve it if I have a solution at all? And a bit of the details, what can I use, or maybe some details on the tech stack and whatever. So that was 3 blocks of abstract that helped me like basically understand how I can write it and how I can put my thoughts on the paper.
Yeah, and so then, okay, so Olena created an abstract, she submitted to some places. Actually, we just created abstract at this point. So yeah. We created abstract, and then it's like, okay, now we actually have to start submitting it. So at that point, you had to find a place to actually get started, because as many of you probably know, there's a lot of different conferences out there, a lot of different meetups, but how do you actually get to speak there? So we started talking about, okay, so first of all, CFPs, call for papers, call for proposals, however you want to call them. But so CFP is basically like, okay, I'm going to submit this to a specific conference or meetup. And so CFP is basically just them asking like, hey, we want content, please provide it here. These days, a lot to sessionize or paper call. And so that's actually the first thing that I told Olena, like, okay, so if you want to start speaking, start submitting. And go to sessionize to just see, okay, what are the different CFPs that are open? Look for the area that you want to speak in. So that might be Azure or development in her case. For others, it might be more like Power Platform. So there's a lot of different call for papers out there, of course. So look at those call for papers and see, okay, what are the ones that I'm interested in? And keeping track of call for papers can be a bit difficult, because these days it's a bit easier than when I got started, because now we have Sessionize. And I would say about 50% of the conferences are using Sessionize these days, which I'm very happy with, because it also makes it a lot easier to submit. But yeah, so Sessionize these days has an option where you can actually say, okay, show me the CFPs that would be interesting to me. So when you create a Sessionize profile, you put some, like, I can talk about Azure, I can talk about Cosmos DB, I can talk about, you name it. And then you have a button like show open CFPs or something like that. And it will actually show you, okay, these are the CFPs that are currently open that like are close to what you want to talk about. So that's one place. Another place I look for CFPs myself is, for example, via Google. Just type in what you want to talk about, so Azure, Cosmos DB, whatever. And then like site colon sessionize or colon paper call. So it actually looks in those different websites to see, okay, these are all the CFPs that are about Azure, for example. And another one that is really interesting too, there's a couple of different ones, but on Twitter there's like CCFP and some other that aggregate all those different CFPs and just put them out there. So I've like 2 or 3 of those in my Twitter feed. And that's also a place where you get a lot of different CFPs that are open. So you can actually see, okay, this looks interesting, and then actually go to that CFP. And this is definitely important for the conferences that don't have Sessionize or Papercall, which are still like a couple of very big ones, like European SharePoint Conference, for example, use their own website. So unless you actually look for those, maybe you should put that conference itself in your Twitter feed. But if you don't want to have all those conferences in there, then like something like CFP really helps on that. Of course, you can also just start in your own local network. So, and this is more, definitely now we're going back to in-person again. This is also a very good way to get started as a speaker. Because there's a lot of local communities, local meetups, local user groups where you can start speaking as well. So look at those local communities and just reach out to them. So go to the meetups and just start talking to people. Start talking to organizers and tell them, hey, I would like to get started with speaking and this is what I want to talk about. And a lot of these meetups and user groups are actually very happy if you do this because, once again, I also run my own user group, and it's very hard to find new speakers. So what you often see at those meetups is like there's 10 people that basically speak every year during the whole year. So when they get a new speaker that's like, hey, I have something interesting to say, they will definitely give you a slot there and help you on that part. And finally, discuss with your own network. You might already know people that are speaking, or maybe someone, or if your friends know someone that's speaking. So also let them know in your network, like, hey, I want to start speaking and I want to actually start in this community. And of course, Olena was pretty lucky that she actually met a lot of people during the school that are all speakers. So she got a lot of help from that community as well. Like, okay, hey, if you want to speak, like, this is a very interesting conference, or this might be interesting to go to. So that is actually how you can get started as a speaker yourself. Just reach out to those different places and just start, basically. So we now actually submitted some things, and at some point Olena was like, oh shit, I actually got invited to speak.
That was true. At some point, I remember I got an email, your session was accepted. I'm like, oops. Because I had abstract, I had an idea about my talk. Of course, I knew what I'm going to talk about, but I didn't have a slide deck. And for me, a slide deck, I mean, you have to fill like 1 hour or like 45 minutes. It was not a lightning talk. It was like the full session. And that was, yeah, oh shit, now we really need to do this. So I started panicking. After I stopped panicking, I finally started to think about the slide deck itself and presentation. I realized that I want to make a kind of a story with my session. I don't want to just go through the slides and say, hey, this is this and this and this and documentation or whatever, the technical details. I want to make a story. So for me, it was to have an interactive process, basically. So the way why I got into the topic, like how I started to work with this topic, what kind of troubles I had, and that's what I wanted to show with my basically slide deck. I wanted that my story and my slide deck will support the story I'm telling. I didn't want to put a lot of text on the slide like we have right now, for example. Yeah, no, I'm joking. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, no, bullet points is always good, but to write like a lot of text that people really have to sit and read, like that was also in one of the videos about the PowerPoint. I think that it will be on this slide, basically, that people cannot listen and read in the meantime. So a couple of bullet points is great, but if there's a lot of text, you will just lose the attention. So my slides, I wanted to have them just to support my story, basically, but not to completely drag the attention out of my words. Also, I need to bring my own personality. So, of course, sharing the story and creating a slide deck, it's not just about the topic you're talking about. It's just a bit of you, the part of you. So a bit of memes, maybe to share some couple of words, a couple of words about you as a person. Eldert, for example, always have some Lego stories behind it, right? And that's also part of it, because when you do sessions like over and over again, people start recognizing it. Every speaker, if you will have a look in more details and in more detail in the session, there is always some similarities in how the sessions is built, how the slide deck is built. And basically that's what I mentioned before, that there is a how to avoid death by PowerPoint. There is a really, really nice video, short, like for 10 or 15 minutes, where there is a description, basically, how not to do sessions, like what kind of background better to choose just for the eyes of attendees. So not like white background that's people sitting like, oh my God, what is happening? Avoid text, get some like maybe pictures, share a bit of like your own persona. And this video helped me a lot also to understand basically the technical details of how to create a slide deck. And so, starting off on preparing my first session, basically, I was talking to myself quite a lot. And I think that I really made my neighbors a bit worried about it, because I was basically waking up in the morning and just talking to myself like I'm having a session, like I'm giving a session, because I had no idea how to actually build the structure of a slide deck, how to build the structure of a session, like for the real world. And I was just trying. I was just talking what is natural for me, how to express myself, how to express my thoughts. And I was practicing over and over again. One day, I think that I spent like 6 hours, and actually my voice at some point went down because I was 6 hours like just walking and talking and talking and speaking to myself. And it actually helped me a lot, because even at some point I was opening my presentation, even without pictures, without anything, just one sentence on a slide, like what is about this slide, and I was just going through and just speaking like a lot, again and again. Sometimes I was going back to the slide and going again to make this process a bit smoother. It's like really to teach yourself, like not like a dog, but like really teach yourself how to go through from one slide to another. And also practice with audience really helped me a lot. It doesn't have to be a lot of people. It could be your cat. It could be it could be your mirror, like your neighbors. It could be some of your friends. In my case, Eldert was sitting on the coffee with me on a call, Zoom call, and was listening to to me. Oh my God! I need to start again. I need to start again. I need to start again. But it helped. It helped a lot, because practicing with yourself is one thing, but once you see even one pair of eyes in front of you, it's a completely different story. It's you're looking in the eyes, you're sometimes forgetting what you're talking about, you're getting distracted, and it's not easy. And this helped me also a lot to basically get used to it. And there is another thing. I had no idea that it even exists in PowerPoint, and I guess Eldert, it's better for you to say about it.
So if you go to PowerPoint, I definitely know it's in the online part. I don't know, I'm not sure it's in the desktop one now. Yeah, so it's now also in the desktop app there. But basically, when you go to your slide, like when you start your session, your presentation, you also have like rehearse with coach. And this will actually give you like an AI coach, and it looks when you start doing your session, and will give you feedback about you're talking too fast, you're talking too slow, you use some words that you shouldn't use, so maybe some not inclusive words. It gives you a little bit of feedback about intonation. And once you actually finish it, it will actually give you like a summary, like, okay, this is how fast or slow you talked. These are the points that you should work on. Maybe like don't have in between every sentence or something like that. So this really helps you to get started. Like, okay, so this is my presentation, and gives you feedback like, okay, these are the points that you do need to work on. And especially when you get started, or even like I still use myself a lot as well, because especially when I do a new session, it gives you the focus points like, okay, here's where I should focus on for this specific session, and these are the things I should improve on. So that's a really good thing, like I said, both as a new speaker or as an experienced speaker to actually get started with this.
Yeah, and it really works. I was surprised. I didn't expect this from PowerPoint, to be honest. I was like, what? It's not just for slides. Cool. Yeah, and another video, 110 Techniques of Communication and Public Speaking, another great video. It's actually was in references to the previous one about PowerPoint. It's basically just tips and tricks how to behave in front of people on a stage. It takes, of course, a lot of practice, and I think that I will be maybe close to even realizing what I'm doing on the stage, like maybe in a couple of years. But at least it's also good to go through this, to have a look in this video, and at least just have a couple of like goals maybe, or at least be aware of what is happening, like how you can talk to people, how you can control your voice, and how you can just like what kind of gestures and not like yeah, to avoid that kind of things. Of course, it takes time. Sometimes I'm standing on the stage and dancing too much because I feel nervous. Sometimes I'm standing and like really forgetting what I'm talking about. But afterwards, after a session, every time I'm having a couple of minutes and I'm okay, again I did this, and it's helping me to just learn and go through my mistakes over and over again. And eventually, with time, some of them I'm managing to fix, some of them still dancing sometimes, but it's a process of improvement. And very important to also remember that we have to invest in this as well. It's not just about having a great session and great story, it's also how you present it, because people, they listen and they consume information, what they see basically in the current time, not what was on the slides or was an idea there.
Yeah. So at this point, so she got accepted, and like the date is coming closer. And so we're talking about, okay, but how do people actually know that you're doing this? Of course, the people that go to the agenda will see this, but there's a whole group out there that has no clue that you're going to talk. So you should start promoting your session and yourself, because if you don't do this, like people will know that you're doing this, and they might not know about your session, which might be very interesting for them. So first of all, I would saying, okay, so start interacting with the event itself on social media. So start tweeting about the event, start saying, hey, this is my session, I'm at this event at this time, and let people know that you're doing this. But when you do this, also make sure you let people know a little bit about, okay, what is this session about? Because if you're just saying, hey, I have a session, people still don't know, like, okay, sure, but will this be interesting for me? So include a little bit of information about your session as well, like this is the title, or maybe like this is what I'm going to show, like 1 or 2 sentences. Because people want to know, okay, if you're going to speak about something, what are you going to speak about, and will this be interesting for me? Because once again, it's very, of course, awesome if you have a full audience, but if 90% of that audience actually is not interested in your talk, you are also not gaining what you want to have there. So you want to make sure that the right people come to your session, that actually people that are interested in what you're going to talk about, that might actually learn something from this. And this promotion actually helps people know, like, hey, this looks interesting, like Cosmos DB. Hey, I'm working with Cosmos DB, or I want to start working with Cosmos DB. This could be a very interesting session. So make sure that you actually include a little bit of information about, okay, this is what we're going to talk about, this is what you'll learn. And then, of course, also include some links, because like for a tweet, it's like, I don't know, 280 characters, something like that these days. But it's still like a very small story that you can tell there. So also include the link, for example, to, okay, if you want to know more about my session, here's the full abstract. Or if you want to register, here's the registration page of this conference. So people also know where to go to get some more information and to actually get into this conference or whatever event you're doing.
Exactly.
And then came the day that you actually had to start speaking. So this like a couple of days before, and a couple of weeks to a couple of days before, where we started talking about, okay, what do you actually need to do? Because of course we were in virtual times. It was back in April-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
So we were still all sitting at home. No one was going anywhere, so we were sitting at home. So you have to think about different things when you're actually doing a virtual session instead of like an in-person session as we are doing now. And one of the things that you have to think about in a virtual session is about your equipment. So you have to start buying a camera because you want to actually be able to see the speaker there and in good quality. You have to think about your surroundings because, especially when you're sitting at home, like your surroundings, what's behind you, is also telling a story. if you just have a big pile of mess behind you, people will you will come over differently to people than when you actually have like a nice cabinet behind you, maybe with some books or something like that.
Yeah, but maybe it's also part of persona, you know.
That might
the
be
whole
it.
this mess.
That might definitely be it. But like I think everyone here has at some point seen like some of the Ignite sessions. I'm sure AWS does the same. But for example, you see Satya Nadella speaking, he always has like a bookcase behind him, and there's always some like Easter eggs in there. Like there might be like a small thing that will be like a new announcement, or there's some books about like coding or something like that. But they really think about, okay, what is actually behind this person? And so you should do the same when you're doing this virtually as well. Think about what's behind you. And so, for example, for Olena, she has some books behind her, some Lego, some drinks. But it's telling a story about, okay, this is who I am. And when you're on camera, like people recognize, okay, so this is the person that's actually on stage. So second part is actually doing the story itself. It's really like, especially when you're virtual, because you don't really see anyone. If you're lucky, like a few people might turn on the camera. Most of the time, there's actually no one there. So you're just talking to your screen, and that can be a bit scary. So you definitely have to stay calm and just remember, like you're telling your story. So just tell your story and just know that people are out there that want to listen to this. And because it's so hard to do this virtually, because you cannot engage with the audience. Like here we can have some interaction. But if you're just talking to your screen and depending like maybe on Teams or Zoom, like you can still ask some questions and people can jump on camera. Most people actually don't, so you still don't have engagement. But so find some ways to engage with the audience. Like maybe, for example, in the NDC Sydney, we did this, like ask people to just, hey, please turn on your camera so we can see how you are reacting. And NDC Sydney is one of the few places where people actually do this quite a bit, so that was nice. But if people are not turning on the camera, maybe have like a poll in there, like have some kind of poll that people can react on your session, or they can like answer some questions. But try to have some engagement with your audience. So it's not just you talking for 45 or 60 minutes to your screen, but actually have some engagement with your audience, because it makes it a bit easier because you know there's actually people out there.
That's true. Yes, so after my first virtual talk, basically there was a couple of tips that helped me to go through this, and yeah, the glass of water or something else next to it, something else, glass of water or something else, like maybe a cup of coffee, maybe a cup of tea, but it helps a lot. It helps not because like if you feel this dry or something, but when you feel that you're rushing too much and you feel that you cannot breathe and there is not enough air, just take in water, and this couple of seconds, I know that's super awkward. When I first time did it, I was like, oh my God, it's taking so long, and people feel super annoyed. But in a real life, it's taking like a couple of seconds, and it's not even noticeable for attendees. But for you, it's time to basically breathe in, breathe out, just again think about what you're talking about, and calm down. And that's really, really helping for the first times, even person or in person or virtually, doesn't really matter. Having something like this really, really helpful. Also, write down some things. Important, complicated, is it numbers, maybe it's a technical, some technical words, doesn't really matter. We all feel nervous, and it's normal to be nervous. And sometimes we can forget some words, even if it's our daily job, and if we use those words on daily basis, we can forget. And it can be just like, especially English is not my first language. It's not even second language. So for me to forget the word is like pretty regular thing. So sometimes I was just writing down just to have it in front of my eyes. I was not even always using it. I used it only once or twice. But knowing and being sure that, okay, it's in front of your eyes. If I will forget something, I will just be able to have a look. It's also gives this like a bit of a safe zone, a bit of calming effect. Temperature level. Maybe, yeah, maybe it sounds like, come on, like it's fine. Like, what kind of temperature you can have at home? But this is not a joke as well. When in Berlin it was a summer, peak of summer, and it was going to 30, 35 degrees. I thought that my brain will just melt and go through my ears because it was horribly hot, and you really, really cannot give a session with that kind of environment. I I just was not paying attention to this because for me it was like it's fine. I mean, it's summer, everyone feel hot. But when you have to sit and you feel nervous and you're already like a bit warmer and you're sweating and nervous and don't know what to do, and there's too hot outside, it just can make you really drive you crazy. And this is really something to pay attention to as well. Talk slowly, take breaks, a few seconds when needed. As I said, we all nervous. We all sometimes forget that we have to talk slowly, that we have to actually spell all the words carefully, and this is fine. We just need to remember that few seconds is not a minute, and people don't feel annoyed, and that's absolutely normal. We just need to inhale, exhale, and keep talking, because only in this way we can actually make our point clear and not just rush through them. And people can see us, so we have a camera on as a speakers, or we are staying on the stage. We have to make ourselves look nice. It's not only about nice. It's also it's helping. It helped me as well as a speaker to get used to it. Not like my head down in a screen and just try to something like speak under my nose, but to actually interact with even if it's camera. But try to enjoy it. Try to imagine that there is people in front of you. Try to have a look on the screen. Maybe there's someone has camera on. It's also quite important, and it might be distracting. But with time it's getting easier, and it's also easier then afterwards to exchange the energy, basically, like interact with people when it's coming to in-person events. And try to change intonation a bit. Sometimes we can speak too fast, sometimes we can be too loud or too silent or something, but we have to remember that important things have to be a bit louder, maybe make a break. Less important things can be a bit more silent, but we need to make this like basically difference in intonation, so people can actually listen and can actually consume the information. Because otherwise, of course, again, I'm saying this, it will come with years like of practice. It's not like that I'm saying this because I'm doing this. No. I'm saying this because this is also goals for me, but also important to keep in mind. And try to relax. All my friends, everyone around me will tell me all the time, the most important is just to relax and have fun and enjoy it. Because if you like it and you feel happy about it, what you're doing, of course, improvement, that will be always there. But if you like to do what you're doing, you will keep improving, and people will keep coming to you on your session.
Yep. And then comes, okay, so you have now spoken. How are we going to go to the next level? Because you have spoken once, but now you want to speak more, you want to learn more, like you say, you want to keep improving. So first of all, you should keep the momentum, because you have now spoken once, but how do you keep speaking? So start submitting to multiple different events. Like I said in the beginning, like there's many events out there that have open CFPs that are looking for speakers. So just keep submitting to those events. You can submit the same session to different events. Most often you will have different people there anyways. Or like here there is, 10 tracks or something like that. So people will always be like, okay, I could not see this last time, so I want to see this at the next time. So definitely just submit the same session to multiple events. But also make sure that you start preparing multiple sessions. And when I say prepare multiple sessions, it's mostly prepare multiple abstracts. So just have some different abstracts that you want to speak about. You don't have to have the PowerPoint ready and stuff like that, because that can come once you actually get invited with the session. I mean, I have sessions that I have had around for like a year or 2 years that have never been selected. So that happens as well, because they might not be like the right audience, or people like other sessions better. But do have some different stories that you want to share. It can all be in the same space. Like Olena does a lot of different talks about different parts of Customer B with different like technologies and stuff around that. So it's not like, okay, I need one about Customer B and I need one about communities, and like it can be in the same space. But do have some different sessions so that organizers can actually, okay, this might be a better fit for us. And of course, keep interacting with the community. So make sure that you keep that people know who you are, that they know what you can speak about, because you might get invited. Because Olena has already been invited quite a few times by conferences. Like, hey, we saw your session here. We'd like to do the same. So it also helps like keeping that momentum going. Like, okay, I've done this once, I've done this twice. How do I make sure that I can keep doing this? Because as a speaker, you want to keep on doing this because we enjoy this life as a speaker.
Yeah. Quite important part, it's managing your schedule, which is for me the huge problem because I'm a quite chaotic person, and managing my schedule, be in time, not be late, wake up. That's the really big troubles for me. But it really helped me to have like kind of blockers on my calendar. So I realized that it's having a session, even if you just submit it there, but it was not yet approved, just mark it in the calendar with maybe special color, maybe with a comment, add the link to the sessionize, and keep it in your calendar, because then it helps to see if they're overlapping or not. Once it got accepted, I always mark it with a specific color, or sometimes conferences, they have like add to calendar. That's perfect. That's amazing. Yeah. Then you add it to the calendar, and you already have everything with the time to your session, and to the links. Also, to have enough time between the sessions. 3 sessions per week, it's amazing, but it's also only special people can do this. Sometimes when I have like 2 sessions or 3 sessions, I think it was also the case. It drains you. It's quite exhausting because you also have 8 hours of work. You might have a personal life, maybe not.
You got that.
Yeah, for me, I'm lucky enough. It's like I just have my work, but you have to also I need to sleep. I need to sleep 10 hours, 12 hours per day. So that's my personal life. And between the sessions, you need to have a bit of time for yourself, for maybe for your family. If you don't have enough, it really drains you, and the only thing you want to do on your weekend is just lay like this and don't move. So make sure there is enough in between. Otherwise you just would not be able to deliver it properly, and then you're sitting and you feel a bit frustrated and sad, like I didn't do a good job, but next time. So it shouldn't be a case. You should really enjoy every time when you can speak. And take conference time into account, especially the time zones. Sydney at midnight, and I need to speak, and I just woke up, and I'm like, oh Jesus, no, please. That sometimes it's not crossing your mind in the first place, but when it's coming closer to it, you realizing, okay, this is hard. Then tomorrow I have work, and so on and so on. So at least to be prepared mentally that okay, this might be a bit hard, but I will do this, because if you would not think of it, it could be double trouble. So.
Yeah. So, and of course, once you create a session, like I said, you can definitely submit the same session to multiple places. But you have to make sure that you keep it fresh, keep it interesting. So what you should do is reuse that same session, but always keep updating it. For example, I have one of my sessions that I've been running for 3 years now. But if you look at the first recording of the session and the session that's there now, it's nothing, it's a completely different session by now. But you just keep updating it. For example, this is an API management session I'm doing. So every time there's a new feature, I go back to the session, I make sure that feature is in there. I maybe make a new demo, or I adjust the demo to actually include this. So keep updating those sessions. Don't be that person that, okay, I saw this exact same session 2 years ago. No, keep updating it and just keep improving on it. And that can be new features, new experiences, because of course you're working with this stuff yourself probably. So you might be okay, I thought this was the right way last time, but I got into a new project, or I got a new customer, and I actually show a better way. So then you can also talk about that experience, okay, so maybe you have seen this session before where I was talking about this and this, but I found that you can actually better do this and this. So really keep improving that session with your, like I said, the new features, especially with tech sessions, but also keep updating your own experience in this. And of course, also keep thinking about new sessions. So because you cannot just use those same 4 sessions that you have for the next coming years. Myself, for example, I try to create a new abstract once every 2 to 3 months. Just to see, okay, I learned something new. Let's just see if people are interested in this. So I create a new abstract, I put it up for some different conferences. Sometimes it gets picked right away, sometimes it might take some while, sometimes it never get picked. Like I said, I have sessions that never got picked because it's just not something that people might be interested in, or it's maybe not like something that people associate me with. But just keep trying like new sessions and see what people are interested at that point.
Yeah, and first in-person conference, after we made a couple of virtual events, we finally got to in-person conference. It was in Ukraine, back in my home in Kyiv. Yeah, it was actually really nice because I felt more comfortable on the home territory, to be honest. So so the main points which I learned for myself, again, of course, no rush, breathe and think. When I got to a stage, I was standing and my knees were trembling, so I was holding to the stand because it was it was a bit shocking. It was a lot of people in the stage, and I realized that I need to breathe, because otherwise I would not be able to start talking. Yeah. Interact with audience, it really helped me to just ask a couple of questions, like even not about topic, even not technical questions, but just like, hey, how are you doing? To get a bit of like interaction, exchange of energy. It's helping to calm down, it's helping to organize your thoughts. Visit other sessions. Also a great way to learn how other people present, how other people do things, and also how do you feel about it. So, I feel this is really cool. Maybe I can learn from something, and it's really nice if you have opportunity. Go to the other sessions, have a look. Get to know people at the events. At the event, many people were coming to just even to chat, to talk, and it was really great. Some of the one of the person that I was talking to then recommended me to another event. Another person I met on the next conferences, and it's great. It's like you're creating your network, you're creating your community around. And not to be afraid of questions. It was for me also, like, I'm not an expert on a topic. Like, I just sharing my story. I just want to share like what I went through and what kind of mistakes I had. But it's always like the point, like, what if they will ask me a question and I would not know what to answer? But it's fine. Like, no one is expert. I mean, maybe some couple of people, maybe we have some experts, but it's fine to say, okay, cool question. I don't really know. Drop me a message, and if I will find an answer, I will write it back. And it's totally fine. So yeah,
as you heard, like, we are coming to the end of the our slot, so we are going to wrap up. But what we want to do is, like, for those people here that might be like, hey, I want to get started myself, just a few tips. Like, we have shared our story, but also a few tips like, okay, what should you do or what shouldn't you do when you want to get started? And first of all, it's really your own journey that you're going on. So also really think about, what do you want to do? So decide your own path. We talked today about, okay, what did Olena do? How did she get started? What were the steps that she took? But if you want to get started yourself, really look at, okay, what do I want to do? You might want to be a speaker. You might want to start writing blog posts. You might want to start doing videos. But really think about, okay, what is your passion and how do you want to bring this across? Make sure you connect to that local community, because the local community is definitely, especially now we're going back to in-person events again, those are the people that you will see most, so really connect to them and make sure they know about you and they know what you're passionate about. And start building your own content. And this is, I think, very important, because I've seen a lot of beginning speakers that basically just took one of the Microsoft slide decks and just went through that. I mean, it's one way to get started, but it's not as interesting as you actually talking about your own story, your own path. And like we said in the beginning, it doesn't have to be something very complex. It doesn't have to be like overly complicated. Just talk about, hey, I made a mistake. This is what I did, and this is what I learned. Because that is what people are more interested in than, okay, I could just have gone to the Ignite website and seen this session told by someone else.
Yeah, And the mentorship itself, so because our session about mentorship, very, very important. If that's the path you're choosing, remember that you have to find someone you can align with. So it cannot be in a way that like it's just a random person. You come like, please mentor me, please mentor me. Like no, it has to happen naturally. Like we became friends first of all. I had no idea that Eldert is speaking. I had no idea who is this person. We just talk, and we became friends. And then it was naturally, hey, I can help you. Hey, like a couple of questions, and that's cannot be forced. No hierarchy. We just have to work together, and that was our case. That's why we also have sessions together, because why not? It's not like, hey, I will make a session with you and I will guide you through the journey. No, we said, and like, hey, would be cool if you can share our story. We can do this and this, and that was our case. And this is I think that this is the way how it should be.
Agreed.
So the guidance, the rest is on you. It's always very important to keep your persona. Like, of course, you have a mentor, but it doesn't mean that you have to be a copy of your mentor. So mentor shouldn't try to replicate himself.
Exactly.
And enjoy the journey. So it always has to be fun. It has to be entertaining. Have to keep you motivated and push you to the better achievements, right?
Yeah, so finally, like everyone started somewhere. Like even like Dylan Beatty, like when you see Dylan Beatty on stage, he looks like, okay, this is someone that was like when he was born, he was already speaking. But he also started somewhere. He also started like at the local user group or something like that. And like everyone starts somewhere. So don't be afraid to get started, but just go for it. And the worst thing that can happen is that you don't do a great session the first time. You improve and you will do it better next time. Best case, you do an amazing session and you are hooked to the virus right away. Well, not the virus, I should not say this anymore.
Yeah, so that's true. And actually that's what Dylan said to us. Like yesterday we were talking exactly about this, about speaking. And he said, yeah, one day you have a good day, one day you have a bad day and bad talk. And it happens. You just keep doing again until you reach the point you want. So. And at this, thanks a lot for the attention. Thanks for coming so early, because I was already considering maybe I would not come. But thanks a lot. You have our details, our LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Feel free to reach out or just to connect. We'll be happy. And yeah, I guess it's coffee time and the next sessions.
Yes. So yeah, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for the organizers for having us on stage here. Thank you Olena for being an amazing co-speaker. And she's been doing this since April. Like she has done such an amazing journey. So I'm really proud of her as well. And so yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference. Later today we'll also have another session. So if you want to see more about event sourcing on Azure, come to that session. And for now, enjoy the rest of the conference. And if you have any questions, please come up or you can always contact us.
Yeah, thanks.